Every YouTuber thinks about the day when they can start working with brands, when they can create that relationship with the brand that they love using, and they get paid to do it at the same time. But a lot of creators feel that they need to have a manager in order to begin those relationships, or they feel that the key to getting those relationships is having a manager who can open up doors for them. Well, in this video, I interview popular fashion YouTube creator Shea Whitney, who has over 1.2 million YouTube subscribers. And she shares her experiences working with a manager and why she actually recommends and prefers not to work with a manager and managing your own brand deals. And in addition to that, she shares a ton of really insightful tips on what you should do as a YouTube creator to build relationship with brands. And she has a ton of tips on what you should do yourself to negotiate with brands and start working with brands. Enjoy this interview. Mwah.
And I don't want to say like bad things about this person because I do think he is really good at his job. It's just, I think people need to take a step back.
Well, hello, Shea. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay.
This is the third time. Time.
Third time's a charm. Charm for what? I don't know, but glad you're here again. And we thought it'd be really great if you were to focus on a specific topic related to working with a manager, because, on previous podcast episodes, you've talked about how you've grown on YouTube, and I'm definitely going to link those below so you guys can check those out. So you've gone into detail with that, but you're at over 1 million subscribers now. So you're experiencing different things now than you did at 100,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers. And one of the things that I know that a lot of creators kind of are figuring out as they grow is whether or not they should work with a manager. And why don't we get started with you sharing first off, like, what a manager is in the whole sense of YouTube, and when you first started working with a manager.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I kind of have a different perspective on this than a lot of people. And I think I want to preface with, there's not like one right answer. Like, there's different routes you can go. I just feel like mine is a little bit different viewpoint of it. So I feel like as you start growing on YouTube, there's definitely this thing in the back of a lot of people's mind that think, oh, maybe if I get to be a certain size, like I could have a manager. And a lot of times what managers do is they kind of handle the brand deals for you. They bring you opportunities. And I think that's what makes it sound so fascinating and nice. It kind of, I don't know, like it's just, it has a nice ring to it, and I think sometimes it can be a good thing. But with me and my experience, I have just found that I don't like it at all. And so I would say, I don't even remember, it's been, I feel like, I've talked to you about it. I feel like it's been at least 6 months or so, maybe even almost a year, maybe less than that. It doesn't matter. But I ended up finally taking the plunge and going with a manager. And I had been approached by a lot of them in the last maybe 2 years. And I did calls. I kind of almost went with another person. And then I was like, no, I don't want to. And then I finally found somebody that I just really clicked with. And I thought, he was just great. And I thought it could be like, it could take some things off my plate, and I could still be introduced to more opportunities that maybe I haven't been exposed to yet. So I signed the contract, and luckily it was a contract that I could, if I didn't like it, I could get out at any time. So that's one thing that, if you do want to experiment with this, make sure you can get out of it at any time. There's other contracts that it's like you're tied in for a year, even longer, maybe 6 months, but luckily I could get out. So anyway, I did it, and I could tell within the first month, complete, I wouldn't say disaster, because I do think that the person that I was working with, and I don't want to say like bad things about this person, because I do think he is really good at his job. It's just, I think people need to take a step back and kind of think about how it might not really save you time or energy, and it might actually, you might be like paying somebody to do something you already kind of have to do. So anyway, I started working with him. He really didn't bring me that many more opportunities, really. In fact, I found that I was then bringing him opportunities that I was already getting. And once you sign that contract, they take a cut of the brand deals, and it's usually between 15 to 20%. It's usually just 20%. But mine was actually 15%, which is a little bit under industry standard, which is another reason why I was like, okay, maybe I should try this. But anyway, even if I already work with the brand, I already have a relationship with the brand, that person's going to take a cut of it because they're kind of managing it then. So that was I just didn't love it because I, have already been building relationships with brands. And basically, long story short, I just didn't love the way it worked, because when you are working with a manager, you still you have questions about the campaigns, you have questions for the brands. Like, there's so much that, like, when you're emailing back and forth, you still have to email back and forth. It's not like before, I would just go directly to the brand and be like, hey, I have a question about this product. Do you think I should say this? Should I not say this? If I still have that question, I still have to ask the manager, and then he goes and he asks the brand, and then it's this telephone thing of, getting the answer back. It's so much more productive for me just to do it. So that's just the way that I kind of work. And I know, which I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are on this, Erika, but I know that there's other people that may be watching this that they maybe aren't as exposed to different brands, and they think that, it'd be a good way to get them, more opportunities. And in that situation, that is possible. I just think that I wouldn't rush into it, because brands reach out to influencers, content creators all the time directly. And I just don't think that you always need a manager to get it. I think it's kind of like not a scam, because it's not a scam, but I think that there's a lot of managers out there that kind of have realized how lucrative this whole industry is, and it's like their way of kind of getting a little piece of it. And these content creators have such a big influence, and it's like their way of getting a cut of it. And I just don't think it's always necessary. So sorry, that was a really long answer, but that's kind of.
Yeah. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask you, because I do believe that a lot of people think they need a manager so that they get exposure to different opportunities. But you didn't start working with this manager until you had over 1 million subscribers. So you had experience being a creator at 30,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, and you never had a manager. Were you able to get opportunities when you were smaller and at those sizes on your own?
Yes. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube. I see, like, people so much smaller, which is, I don't even mean so much smaller, but I mean, like, even like 15,000. There's a girl I follow. She 15,000 subscribers. She's like doing a great brand deal. I'm like, wow, it's like awesome. Like, I just think a lot of brands reach out to creators, and it's just, there's no like cut being taken out of it. It's so much more seamless. I don't know. I just think that again, everyone has a different perspective and opinion, but I just wanted to be the voice of, like, you don't need a manager. Like, we really just don't. But again, some people probably just prefer to work that way. So
yeah, to answer your question earlier, like, what I think about it, I mean, that I work with and talk to a lot of creators. Yeah. And for the most part, what I do find is that there is this appeal of, well, a manager's going to help me make a ton of money and help me find a ton of brand deals. And I think what ultimately ends up happening is that I think it works for some people. There's a few people out there, obviously it has to, because there's a whole industry of managers managing their YouTube clients. But I do think that not everybody needs it. Like, I think you're a good case study of that. And so what would you tell somebody, though, who is at 30,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers that's trying to navigate this on their own?
Right. I guess I would just say, just take a look at what is currently happening. If you just feel like you are never getting opportunities, like nothing's really coming your way, I would first look at your videos. Like, are they getting views? You know what I mean? If they're getting decent views for your channel, then I guess I feel like brands probably are already reaching out to you, honestly. Now, if they're not, then maybe you could experiment with a manager if they're reaching out to you. I think managers usually do reach out to people versus you going to look for them. I know people sometimes do that, but I just think it's a better relationship and like opportunity if they come to you. So if one does approach you, I'm not saying don't talk to them. I would say have a meeting, have a few meetings, really look at that contract and just make sure you're able to get out of it if you can't, like just whenever you want. So like I ended, to be honest, I ended mine within pretty shortly after that first month. I told myself I was going to stick to it for a month. And by the end of the month, again, nothing bad about that person. He was really good. It was just not at all how I wanted to work. And I got out of it right after that.
So I've heard from managers that one appeal to having a manager is not the fact that they can bring you deals. That's one thing they can do, but the fact that they're so good at what they do in their negotiation that they're able to bring you way more in regards to the amount that you're getting paid.
Right.
What was your experience with that?
With me.
No.
Yeah, that was not the case with me. And that's, you're right. That is a very good point in that some people despise the negotiation part. I've never just, I don't mind it. And I think it's because a lot of times when you're negotiating, you're not really doing it face to face like we are right now. It's a lot of it's through email. And I feel like I can be a lot more bold through email. I mean, I'm always very respectful. You know, I'm probably more friendly. Like I do exclamation points and like, I'm like really, really friendly via email. Sometimes we talk on the phone, but a lot of times it's just through email. And I just feel like I throw myself out there. I kind of initially go for like a higher number than what I expect to really get. And I feel like I've done a really good job with learning how to negotiate. A lot of times I will walk away, like feel free to walk away. And most times they come back and then you end up getting what you really want. So anyway, with my experience with that whole thing, he did not, absolutely not bring me any deals that were higher than what I was getting. In fact, they were lower than what I was getting, and it was then a cut of it was being taken. So it was like double lower, not double, but you know, it was just considerably lower. And it was just like, it just served kind of no purpose.
Yeah, I think that was a good point that you brought up, because I do think that there's some people that don't even want to negotiate and deal with that. And that's why they run to the idea of having a manager. But my advice always is, well, you should, that when you're starting to get these opportunities, I think it's very important as a creator to do your own negotiating, because you need to know and understand what these people are looking for, how they're operating. And even if you do have a manager in the future, having that knowledge can help you in, I'm sure, many ways.
Right. Definitely. And another thing to take into consideration is, you know, I mentioned when I am negotiating or when I'm talking about a deal with a brand, I do try to be very, very friendly. Like I want to come across as somebody that is very easy to work with. And I've been told from many different brands, like not to like pat myself on the back or anything, but a lot of brands have said like, oh my gosh, we love working with you because you're just so easy to work with. You respond really quickly. And when you work with a manager, you are completely like, you're taking a step back, which in a way it might feel like it's stuff is off of your plate, but you have no idea how they're representing you. And so, for example, nothing bad happened with me per se, but there was one brand that I just really loved, and he kind of like took over and he just started kind of like negotiating, and I just started getting concerned that like, oh my gosh, like is my reputation that I had built up with this brand like now being ruined because he's being kind of more harsh and like more standoffish, but that's representing me. And I didn't love that either. So that's just something else to kind of think about.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you're somebody who's had a lot of experience with brands, and it's almost like you were doing fine as a brand, as your own brand manager. Why did you need one? Why did you feel compelled to even try having a manager?
Good question. And I think it's probably the allure that's out there. I just feel like every time I'm talking to somebody kind of my size, a lot of times they're like, oh, my manager. And this one was actually recommended to me by a close friend who is also a YouTuber, and she just loved him. Like she just loves him, and like they're great friends. And so I think because I respect her so much and she had such a good experience, I was like, okay, so if I'm going to try this out, this would be the person that I'm going to. And yeah, so I gave it a try, and it's just, I don't know, you live and you learn. And I think that sometimes, I think with her, she had him from when she was like her blog was really big. Like she she came onto the scene with her blog. So I think she had him for years and years and years when YouTube wasn't even a thing really. And so she just has always had him. And so she's never
Mm-hmm.
had anything different. And I think that's why she's had such a good experience because she doesn't know anything different.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I do know something different. And again, I like it's like, again, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So given that you and I think I as well recommend really not having a manager, especially when you're growing and you're figuring things out. How did you know and figure out how much to charge for your campaigns?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it is I think in the beginning, I definitely charged too less. I feel like that's what everybody does. In the beginning, you like accept way too low. And that's just, again, you just learn. It's just, you do bad things, wrong things, and then you learn from the mistakes. And then other times you do start to develop some close friendships. A lot of, friendships keep their numbers completely tight, which I just have never been like that. And so sometimes I'll find other friends that I can be like, so what are you like charging for this? And then we kind of like compare and contrast. And that was like the biggest help. So if you can kind of develop some relationships with other people that are similar size, you can really kind of like work together. And then other times I've learned where if brands are coming to me and they throw out a number first, because ideally you want them to throw out a number to you first because you don't want to sell yourself short. So I would try that route. It doesn't always work, but sometimes brands would throw out a number to me that was a lot higher than I was expecting, which then proves that like, hey, like this is possible. I should be going up higher. And
Mm-hmm.
I just slowly started raising, and now I feel like my rates are pretty competitive. I feel like they're fair. The brands that I work with consistently come back to work with me. So I feel like it's a win-win. Like I feel like my rates are good, but also I'm like upholding my end of the bargain of like, bringing maybe, customers to them of products that I really love. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's hard to know for sure, but
Yeah. So have you found that from when you were first starting off on YouTube, that have you been able to maintain some of the same relationships that with brands since the beginning?
yeah. Um, a lot of them actually. Like one of them, like was in Nordstrom. I started working with them pretty early on. I still like today, literally today, I filmed a Nordstrom video, which is just I love Nordstrom.
I love
I
mushrooms, yeah.
Miranda Fry, like that's a jewelry brand that I've done different necklaces and designed different things with them, and I still work with them to this day too. Yeah, there's a lot of brands that from the very very beginning I still work with, and I feel like that's what you want. Like you don't want to constantly, like you do want to be fresh and like offering different things on your channel, but at the same time you also want to show that like no, you really do love this. You're not just selling things to sell things. It's like things you use every single day and wear every day. So if you can just kind of like nurture those relationships, I think it's a really good idea.
At what size did you find that you were actually getting contacted from these brands, like
Yeah.
Nordstrom's, for example?
I would say I'm pretty sure when I was around like 30,000 subscribers and up, like I had like I remember I hit 100,000 subscribers. This is so weird. The exact 1 year from when I posted my first video, like on the exact day I hit 100,000 subscribers. And I know at that point I had like a lot of brand deals prior to that. So within the first year I started getting, deals and stuff like that.
Do you find that brands are looking more at the subscriber number or the views, or is it a combination of
I,
both?
definitely both. And I think that brands should be looking at views. They should not be looking at subscriber counts. But I still think that brands half the time don't really know. They're still learning too, so they don't really know everything that they should be looking at analytics wise. And a lot of times they're just like, oh, this person has like 3 million subscribers. But then you look at their videos and it's like only maybe like 20,000 views per video, which is like
Hmm.
not really a good ratio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they're learning and I think they're looking at both.
Do they look at engagement at all?
Um, with I think they do, but like when I send them my information, I'm usually screenshotting. Actually, you know what? Now that I take that back, with YouTube, I don't ever screenshot it. It's only Instagram that I have to like
Mm.
screenshot my views, like for stories and my demographics and stuff. But for YouTube, I don't ever have to. I think they just go in, they probably look at my subscriber count, they look at my videos as a whole, and yeah, they look at my views. Now, I will say I am very particular about not doing videos that I know are going to perform badly. Like I can't stand where like I would say my videos on average get around like 100,000 views, sometimes 200,000. It's usually between 100 and 200,000 views per video. There's a lot of videos that I want to create, or even people come at me and say like, I would love for you to do this. And it might be like an okay video idea, but I just know it's so like it would only be interesting to a few people that it's going to look bad on my channel. And then I just don't want that on my channel because that's going to bring down my kind of opportunities that might come my way, because brands are going to be like, well, this video is like 200,000 views, but this one was only 20,000 views. That doesn't make sense. And so that's another reason why I'm kind of particular in the videos that I do film.
Yeah. And especially also, how do you work with brands if they are being particular about how they want their brand represented? Because I know that there's this fine line between what the creator knows is best for their channel and their viewers and what the brand wants. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So a lot of brands come to me saying that they want a dedicated video, and I just basically shoot that down like every time, like immediately. To me, I don't care what anyone says. If it's completely dedicated, especially if it's dedicated like in the title even, like it's so like nobody's going to click on the video. Like it first of all just comes across very much like an ad. But then also it just really narrows down the potential audience. And so you really want to integrate it into another video idea that's more broad so that more of your audience then clicks on it, and then more eyes see the video. And then it's better for the brand because a lot more eyes see the product or see the item or whatever you're talking about. It's just way better. And so I just, from the get-go, I'm like, this is the way I do it. This is why I'm telling you this will be better for you and for me. And I just lay it all out. If they're not interested, then that's fine. Like I don't have to do it. But more often than not, they're like, that makes total sense, and it works.
Yeah. Do you still get brands asking for that kind of like old school dedicated video with the really?
Yes, I still do. I mean, it's definitely less than it was. I feel like it's more common that it can be integrated, but I feel like they always still start out with like, we'd love for you to do a dedicated video for this. And I'm just like immediately like, sorry, I don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what do you do, or what happens in a case where the brand is asking for less than you want? Do you just kind of walk away? Do you negotiate back and say, this is it, this is my minimum? What happens in that scenario?
So I kind of allot a certain amount of like sponsored videos per month. It's usually like around 3 videos per month. And those are just like my slots. So I have a lot of opportunities kind of coming my way. I want to save it for my favorite brands, ones that actually to me pay the correct rate for my reach and my engagement and all of that. So if a brand is just like offering extremely low, then I'm kind of just like, I'm sorry, like these are the only slots that I kind of have, and I kind of leave them to, the other opportunities that to me are more beneficial for my time as well, and so yeah, I'll just like walk away, and other times they come back to me and then they like, raise the rate, or sometimes we like push it down to like a future month when maybe a spot is open, but I still don't ever go down. Like I have kind of my limit, and I don't like to go under that because then I just feel like it's not really fair either.
Yeah. And are there ever circumstances where you reached out to a brand? Like say that it sounds like you get a lot of opportunities that are coming your way, but are there ever brands that you're like, man, I would love to work with them, I'm just going to reach out? Do you ever do that?
I feel like I did that more in the beginning, but it was a total fail. Like I didn't even get like a response back. But now I literally never reach out to brands. Well, I take that back. I don't ever reach out to brands like, hey, I want to do a sponsored video with you. Occasionally I'll reach out to a brand of just a product that I'm obsessed with, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, I already filmed this video. I'm putting it in this video. If you happen to have like a discount code that might fall, because sometimes like brands might offer like a 10% off thing. I like to get that for the audience or whatever, but half the time I've already filmed the video. I'm not looking for it to be like this sponsored thing, but I really genuinely love the thing, and I love sharing things that aren't sponsored, like it doesn't always have to be like a pay me, but that's kind of the only time that I would actually reach out to a brand these days anyway, I guess.
Yeah. And so just wrapping up, any other advice you would give to a creator who's looking at you and thinking, man, yeah, that would be awesome, I want to work with brands, and how do I get started doing that? What type of advice would you give to someone?
I guess nothing like major is coming to mind. I guess I would say like I do, and I'm sure people watching this, they already are super familiar with the whole like affiliate networks
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. But that is like I am a part of Reward Style. I'm also a part of, Amazon affiliates, and I've also received a lot of brand deals through them because it's kind of like if you kind of you link things and then you earn money through affiliate sales. And then that's kind of like very black and white that like, wow, this person really is bringing in a lot of sales for Nordstrom, for Express, H&M, whatever. Then they're already very connected to these brands, and then they can bring you like specific brand deals for these retailers that you love and you're already
Mm-hmm.
linking. And so I guess I would just say, affiliates, I know everyone already knows that. I'm just saying that I feel like that's a way to like get opportunities, but it not really be through a manager.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. That if you just focus on your content, create really, really good content,
Right.
have those links, and that's hard evidence that
Yeah.
look, your channel converts. Then
Right.
so they contact you through reward style.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
A lot of my deals are through reward style. A lot of them aren't. I mean, it's just like a whole variety of
Mm-hmm.
different ways. So
Very cool. Well, Shay, thank you so much for all
you're
your
welcome.
insight. If people are not familiar with you and your channel, where can they find you?
They can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It's just Shea Whitney, SHEA, like shea butter. But yeah, so thanks
Awesome.
so much for having me. I love
Thanks,
talking to you all.
Shay. Thanks, Shay. Bye.